Now moving forward, I'd like to discuss the dial timeout. This is the amount of seconds that the system will dial a lead until it either no one picks up the phone and it just reaches the time limit, or it detects an answering machine. So by default, it's set at 60 seconds. I would probably recommend between 30 to 35 seconds. That is essentially 5 to 6 rings, depending on the number that's being dialed. So after I'd say 5 or 6 rings, no one picks up the phone. It's probably safe to assume that either they're not home or you're going to get an answering machine sooner or later. So I'd set it at 30 just as a standard. Dial prefix we're going to leave as 9. That's not going to change. Campaign caller ID. Uh, this is the numerical value or the numerical instance that will show up on the recipient's caller ID when you're calling them from this campaign. Now it's got to be numbers and it has to be at least 10 digits long. So right now it's set at zeros, but we can set it to any number that we'd like. So we can choose 407 or whatever number that you deem to put in there. Now it's not going to show the name. The name of the caller ID is actually going to be handled by the person who owns the number that you put in here. So if I put in 407-555-1212, I know that that's information for Orlando. So what it'll show is Orlando information on the person's caller ID. That's not handled by the system in terms of the name. That's handled by the company that owns, or the phone company that owns this number. That's what will be displayed on the person's caller ID. If you choose an arbitrary number, like an 800 number or any other number, whoever owns that number is what's going to show up as far as the name goes. If you put all zeros, then obviously it'll just say unknown. But you can put any number here that you'd like. Campaign VDAT extension. I'm going to touch on this just a little bit here. The 8365, this is basically what'll happen once the call is connected. 8365 is a form of dialing that as soon as the call is picked up, it's going to transfer it over to the agent, whether it be an answering machine or someone who picks up the phone and says hello. In some instances, they might even get a fax machine. So that's considered a call that's been picked up, and it will shoot it over to the agent. What I recommend using is the campaign VDAT extension of 8369, and that will give only live people who pick up the phone and say hello to the agent. It's going to block answering machines, but 95% of the time, when it detects one, it's going to block fax machines, and it's only going to send over hellos, people who pick up and say hello, over to the agent. Now, that being said, there will be anywhere between half to 1 second delay after the person is picked up and says hello, because the system is trying to determine whether they're an answering machine or whether they're a live person. So in some instances, you might find it so that the agent only finds the tail end of the word hello when the call is connected to them, or if the person says really fast, they might not hear anything at all because the person has just said hello. In which case, we'd have to spend more time training our agents that as soon as they get a connected call, they can automatically assume that the person is live on the phone. They can automatically start their pitch without having to say hello and hello, proving to the person on the other side that you're calling them with an automated device. Now we're going to scroll down here to where it says script. If we had a script engaged, this is where we would set it for this campaign. Get call launch is what happens once the call is connected. Now, if we set it to none, it's only going to show the contact information for the lead that's being called on the agent screen. It'll just pop up with the information, and they'll see name, address, phone number, city, state, zip, whatever information was loaded into the system, into the leads, will show up on the agent screen. If I choose script, then it'll actually pop up the script right here in on the agent screen, and they'll be able to pitch the customer from the pitch window that's created there. Otherwise, we can set it to web form, which is essentially Sugar CRM from your system, and it'll actually give you the pop-up window, show the exact same information on the agent screen as it will in Sugar, except they can put in their notes and they can put in different statuses, things of that nature, and they'll be able to view their leads even after they're off the system in Sugar. So we're going to set this to none, just to keep it default. And I'm going to scroll down to where it says Scheduled Callbacks. Scheduled callbacks, I'm going to set this to yes. This gives the agents the ability to schedule a callback after they click on the disposition of callback. If I set it to no, then it's automatically just going to put it back into the system to be called again at random after it's been after the list has been reset. If I set it to yes, then the agents have the ability to view a 12-month calendar that they can dictate what time the customer will be called back and also what day. So if they're interested now, but they say, oh, I'm going on a business trip, I'll be back in a week, they can schedule the callback to be a week from the time that they were called at a specific time. So when they hit submit after that, the system will automatically call that lead back at the date and time that was prescribed. And the agent won't have to worry about missing a beat because it does it automatically for them. Call drop seconds. This is the amount of time that the system will drop a call after the person is picked up without an agent. So let's say it's dialing at a 3-to-1 ratio. Um, Two people pick up the phone. One of them goes to the agent, and the other one is basically on hold waiting for an agent to become available. So according to the drop call seconds, the second person who picked up the phone is going to be waiting for an agent for 5 seconds until the system decides to drop that person. So it's important that we make sure that our ratios are set correctly. If it's set too high, we're going to have a lot of dropped calls, and that's not ideal. If we have it too low, then your drop calls will diminish, but your time in between calls for your agents will also go up a little bit as well. So let's just be conscious about what our mediums are for this. The next thing I wanted to cover here is the internal do not call list. This does not pertain to the national do not call list. This is simply after an agent dispositions the lead as do not call, it's going to be automatically stored into the system's internal do not call list. So that if they choose do not call and we have the use internal DNC list set to yes, which is what I'd recommend, that means that the next time that lead comes up to be dialed, it will scrub it against the system's internal DNC system and find that the lead does exist in the database and it will not call it. It will skip it. So this way, if you have someone who requests to be taken off the list and the agent does their due diligence and disposition the lead as DNC, it will never be dialed again. So you never have to worry about any lawsuits or anything like that because it's going to automatically scrub it against the system's internal DNC list. So once we've made all of our changes here, we simply hit submit, and all of our changes are now taking effect. Now, one thing I like about this part is if we ever need to create a new campaign, for instance, this is called test 1, and let's say we have Eastern leads for this list. If we wanted to point it to a Western campaign for maybe California or Oregon leads, we would simply hit copy campaign instead of creating a new one. And let's call this 102. And I'm going to call this West 1. My source campaign, I'm just going to choose 101, which is the one that we've just created. I'm going to hit submit here. And now everything that we've just created in 101 is now existent in 102. All of our timeouts, all of our caller IDs, everything that we've just created, we've simply copied. The only thing we have to do different after we copy it is we set the active to yes, hit submit, and now that campaign is now active.